Mark Hale with the New York Post here, joined today by our superb lead sports columnist, my friend and teammate Mike Vaccaro. And today with Vac, we're going to be discussing this weekend's Yankees-Red Sox series, Jose Reyes' future with the Mets, and also the NBA playoffs with the Lakers, Celtics, and Heat. And Mike, let's start with the Yankees-Red Sox, which will begin on Friday night in the Bronx. You covered the first series these two teams played at Fenway Park in April. What in particular will make this weekend series compelling?
Well, last time the Red Sox were just holding on, Mark. I mean, they started the season without a win, and they beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. And it's kind of funny. I mean, every day you look in the newspaper and they still have a lousy record, and it doesn't seem like anybody who follows baseball believes that record. It's almost like it's some kind of, elaborate practical joke. I think everybody still believes the Red Sox and the Yankees are the two best teams in the American League. So I think when you have those two teams in the same building anyway, it's going to be compelling. I mean, the fact is the Red Sox, I think, still feel like they have something to prove. And the Yankees, they had a pretty sizable lead in the rest of the division up until last week. We're on the road. And the Devil the Rays have kind of caught up to them. I think the Red Sox still feel that they're within striking distance. I think that's going to make it a pretty interesting 3 days in the Bronx this week.
And it looks like, the Red Sox, Mike, it seems like some things are starting to happen with them, with Crawford maybe hitting a little better now than he was earlier in the season. Adrian Gonzalez has gotten hot. Did the Red Sox come in a better team now than maybe when they played the Yankees a few weeks ago?
Well, certainly a more confident team. I think even though they won 2 out of 3 games from the Yankees, I think all 3 games, you kind of saw they were kind of dancing on eggshells. I mean, for one thing, they were doing it in front of the hometown team, the hometown crowd, and they were very impatient to see the Red Sox. A lot of people thought the Red Sox were going to win 105, 106 games this year. I think right now most of them will be happy with 95 if they wound up getting in the playoffs. And even that'll take some doing after the hole they've dug for themselves. But yeah, look, there's still some questions. I mean, John Lackey still can't get anybody out.
Right.
The pitching, which was supposed to be a strength, has been somewhat inconsistent. But certainly when it comes to, you see what Josh Beckett has done so far this year. That's been something to really hang their hat on. Pitching is still the Red Sox strength, and it's still the thing that they have the more significant advantage over the Yankees, I think.
All right, let's move on to Jose Reyes, Mike, and you feel pretty strongly that there's a specific approach that the Mets should be taking in regard to Reyes' future, don't you?
Well, I do, but look, he's still 27 years old, Mark. He doesn't turn 28 till next month. And this is the kind of player, to me, look, I understand that the Mets are looking at the bigger picture. They want to be able to get players around whom they can build. But to me, Reyes is the kind of guy I still believe that you build around. I know that the last 2 years have been injury-plagued, and so as a result, you kind of forget what he's capable of. I think the last couple of weeks have shown us what he is capable of, what he was in 2006 and 2007, 2008. And then the fact is that, to get a shortstop who's adequate is one thing. To get a shortstop who brings as much to the table that Jose Reyes brings, I just can't imagine why you would let him walk out the door if the only issue that you have is money. Well, of course, that's going to be an issue around the Mets no matter what.
Right.
If that's the issue, I think it sends a terrible message. If there's a grander plan, a greater plan, if they can say with great certainty, if they decide to move him, we're moving him because we've imported these players, because this is our shortstop of the future, because this is our plan going forward, maybe I'll feel differently. But to me, right now it smacks that this would be something done because they don't want to pay him. And if the New York Mets can't afford to pay a franchise cornerstone like Jose Reyes, then maybe the people who own the New York Mets shouldn't own the Mets.
Or we're talking with Mike Vaccaro, lead sports columnist at the Post, and let's get into the NBA a little bit. Obviously, the most surprising thing so far has been the Lakers getting not just losing to the Mavericks and not just losing in 4 games, but really getting annihilated in that final game on Sunday afternoon. And I guess how surprised were you, Mike, with that? And also, is this kind of the end for the Lakers, or can they get back to where they have been for the last few years?
I think if you followed the Lakers at all, ever since they moved to Los Angeles, you realize that you ever count them out, that's silly, because players always want to play there, and great players always want to play there, and the Lakers never seem to have to wait very long in between surges toward the top of the league. They haven't won all those championships by accident. So, no, as long as you have someone like Kobe Bryant as your cornerstone, I realize that the window is slowly shutting on him. They do have pieces they could maneuver, they can trade you. It's going to be interesting to see who their coach is going to be. I certainly wouldn't rule them out as prominent players for the next couple of years. The only problem is that in the past, while where the Lakers might have had 3 or 4 other teams in the rest of the league that can say, well, that team can beat us, that team can win the championship. I think this year certainly we've proved that we've seen that there are a growing number of teams who can, with good reason, have those kind of ambitions.
And 2 of those teams are playing each other right now in the East, the Celtics and the Heat, and that's been, obviously a tremendously anticipated series, and now we've got a 3-1 Miami lead thanks to their Game 4 overtime victory over the Celtics. We're going to have Game 5 tonight in Miami with the Heat a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. You think this series is over, Mike? Does it even get back to Boston?
I don't think so. I really don't. I thought that what we saw at Kevin Garnett in Game 3 was special, but what we saw at him in Game 4 is what you kind of expected to see in this series. Mm-hmm. When we talked about young legs against old legs, the fact that Rondo is as banged up as he is certainly doesn't help things any. But the fact is that if Garnett had played even half as well as he played in Game 3 and Game 4, they would probably be going back tied 2 games apiece. And the fact is that, as great a leader as Garnett has been, as great a presence as he is, the fact is that he's just not 25 years old anymore, and I think that's really starting to show.
There's some talk now that the Heat have kind of become the favorites to win the NBA championship. Do you buy that?
I don't see how you can bet against anybody else as good as LeBron is playing, as well as Wade is playing. I realize the Mavericks have played, pretty good basketball, but it wouldn't surprise anybody, I don't think, given the Mavericks' playoff history. If whoever they play in the next round, beats them. That's just the way things are. I think that the perfect storm had brewed for them to knock off the Lakers. I certainly didn't pick that, but when you saw the way that series progressed, it really was no surprise, I think, by the end of the series what had happened. But the Mavericks, to me, they're Dirk Nowitzki and they're Jason Kidd, and they have some wonderful pieces, but when they're not all playing together, they can be kind of hard to watch, as we saw in Game 3 against the Blazers. And you know what? If they slip a beat a little bit, they're going to have a hard time getting out of the West. And if that happens, I think the Heat are the clear favorites. And I know we're kind of forgetting about the Bulls now. They've got their own issues. But I really think that the Heat is going to come out of the East pretty easily. And when that happens, they're going to be set up to be the favorite in the finals, I believe.
It really will be interesting if it is Dallas and Miami, a rematch of their finals a few years ago. And now you have the Heat, who are kind of this remade team entirely. And the Mavericks are a few things here and there, but they're pretty much the same kind of core of players that they've had here for the last few years.
I think anybody who watched Jason Kidd when he was in net, I realize things didn't end well for Jason, and I realize that he's got his own issues. But if you just love watching basketball, you just really had to enjoy what he did when he was in net. He really at a time when the Knicks were descending into kind of the fire pits of hell, he really kind of allowed us who like basketball around here to really see the way it's supposed to be played. And I think that if you kind of appreciate the kind of player Jason Kidd has been through his career, you wouldn't mind seeing him have this really kind of cool chapter, him and Nowitzki, if they were able to pull it off. I just think it's going to be very hard for them to do.
All right. For more of Mike's thoughts, you can read him all the time on nypost.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Mike Vac. That's VACC. And for the New York Post, I'm Mark Hale.